Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Miami, heading on the road to play Florida State. In my opinion, it's by far the game of the week, and we've already done our preview and prediction episode on this football game. I wanted to take a deeper dive into the Miami fans and the Florida State fans who've been rocking with the boys the last couple of years. You know exactly what's coming. Good old-fashioned roster battle, position group by position group. Who's got more talent on their roster heading into this matchup? Just as importantly, where are the talent discrepancies that we see in this football game? Now, as much as I love a good old fashioned roster battle, and we're going to spend the next 20 minutes deciphering who's got more talent and where, I don't even know if that's the most important storyline that we're going to see in this football game. The way I look at this one, it's a styles make fights kind of game. What I mean by that is Florida State has a way they want this football game to go. That's a little bit of a track meet. They want to run with tempo on offense. They want to score a lot of points and say, hey, Miami, can you keep up with the offensive firepower that we have? And you look at Miami, they're a line of scrimmage team. Like they want to slow this game down. They want to grind Florida State out, control the time possession. How this game goes and who controls how this game is played, that might be the biggest storyline. Because if we see a shootout in Tallahassee Saturday night, that favors Florida State. But if you see a low scoring game that is kind of built on playing defense and running the football and slowing this sucker down, that favors Miami. And there ain't no question about it. So how this game is played, I think, is a really big storyline. And I will say this, when you have better line of scrimmage play, you're normally the team that gets to choose how it's played. And I look at Miami and say what they have on the defensive line, what they have on the offensive line, they got a good chance of controlling how this game is played. But if Florida State can drag Miami into a shootout, I think if you're a Florida State fan, that's how you want this football game to go. That's my first evaluation of the game. But hey, talent on paper, that's going to matter too. Fired up to get into this one before we do. And as always, Miami fans, Florida State fans, a massive amount of support that y'all showed for the preview and prediction episode. And quite frankly, a ton of support from both of these fan bases over the last couple of years. Appreciate you guys. More importantly, that, hey, I want you to subscribe. That helps the boys out. More importantly, let it fly in the comment section. There are a lot of different takes that you can have on this football game regarding who's got better talent and where. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start at the top quarterback position. Look, I hate to start this episode out with a cop-out. Let's be frank. Carson Beck is a more coveted NFL quarterback prospect. I don't think Florida State fans would argue with that. I am not choosing the winner of this football game based on quarterback play. Because the way I look at it, hey, Carson Beck is a perfect fit for this Miami offense and has run this Miami offense really damn well. When you give Carson Beck a run game, of which Miami has, when you keep him clean in the pocket, of which Miami has, Carson Beck's going to be a good quarterback for you. And that's exactly what it's looked like for the first couple of weeks. Then you flip the side and talk about Gus Malzahn and Tommy Castellanos and say, hey, he's a perfect fit in terms of what Gus Malzahn and Florida State want to do on the offensive side of the football. And I'll come out and just say Tommy Castellanos was even better, or has been even better than I expected to start 2025, specifically as a thrower of the football. Like, here's a trivia question that I would think would surprise a lot of people listening. Who has more big-time throws on the year, Carson Beck or Tommy Castellanos? It's Tommy. Tommy's got 7 big-time throws through the first quarter of the 2025 season, completing 65% of his balls with a 13.5 average depth to target. The reason Florida State is experiencing the success they've experienced has a large part of, hey, Tommy's been a really good thrower of the football through the first month of the season. I hate to say it, but it's kind of a wash. I think Carson Beck's a great quarterback from Miami, and I think Tommy Castellanos is playing great for Florida State. Now, the next position, running back spot. Hey, both teams want to run the football. This is a big deal. I am going to lean Miami with this one for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think that the top end running backs, like Mark Fletcher, has been one of the better running backs that we've seen in all of college football. And he specifically fits how Miami wants to run the football, and that is just efficiently. Hey, we want to manufacture explosive plays, but want to know what we care about a little bit more: being in 2nd and 5, being in 3rd and 2, moving the chains. Mark Fletcher is the perfect back for how Miami wants to run the football. And I look at Florida State and say, hey, if you can unlock Usman Kroma, who I think is by far the most talented pure ball carrier on this team, that might change the conversation. Because I think Usman Kroma has the ability to be one of the best running backs in the country, but so far it's been a decent amount of Gavin Sawchuk. You sprinkle in a guy like Usman Kroma. Roydell Williams should be back and healthy for this game. You have a couple of cats in Jalen Lucas that I think difference maker when they touch the football. I probably lean Miami because I think the way Mark Fletcher has played has been perfect for what and quite frankly, you can say the same thing for Marty Brown. You talk about two of the running backs that run the hardest in the sport. I think you're looking at them with Miami, with Mark Fletcher and Shamar Brown. Here's another interesting wrinkle. Jordan Lyle getting back healthy coming off the bye. If Jordan Lyle is back healthy, can he be that running back that can provide some explosiveness to this Miami rushing attack? Because as good as Mark Fletcher and Shamar Brown are, if you're a Miami fan, maybe you want to see a little bit more home run plays from the running game. Well, Jordan Lyle is the back who's going to give you that. And I would remind Miami fans, hey, who was the first running back to take the field for Miami against Notre Dame week 1? It was Jordan Lyle, which tells me Jordan Lyle might have been the best running back in fall camp. Is Jordan Lyle back? How healthy is he? And can he provide that explosive element to this Miami rushing attack? I like both running back rooms. I'll give the slight edge to Miami. Wide receiver, pass catcher room will include the tight ends in this conversation too, because I think both teams have some quality tight ends, especially Miami with Elijah Lofton. And quite frankly, that's probably disrespectful to Randy Pittman because I think Randy Pittman is one of the more underappreciated players on this Florida State team. Now, here's how I pick apart the wide receiver rooms. Miami's got a little bit more depth and answers to this room. Who's the best wide receiver on the football field? And Miami fans might push back and might say Malachi Tony, but I'll go with Deuce Robinson. Deuce Robinson looks like a future or at least potential first-round NFL draft pick. He's been phenomenal for Florida State, 24 targets on the year. This is where it gets hairy for Florida State, at least from what I've seen. It seems like it's Deuce Robinson or bust at times for Florida State in the passing attack. You've seen Squirrel White make some plays. You've seen Mekhi Danzy make some plays, specifically on some end arounds and screen passes. You've seen some good things from LaWayne McCoy. Javon Boggs, a guy that I think can be an X factor in this one. Deuce Robinson has 24 targets on the year. There's not another Florida State pass catcher that has over 9. What that is telling me is, hey, we got a true wide receiver, one alpha wide receiver in Deuce Robinson. I'm not sure how much we trust our other pass catchers in this room because they haven't really gotten a ton of action. Look at Miami and say, all right, CJ Daniels has played very well for Miami. Malachi Tony has played very well for Miami. Those are the two that Miami wants to run their passing attack through, but they sprinkled in the running backs out of the backfield. They sprinkled in Keelan Marion in space. They sprinkled in their tight ends. I thought the tight ends played very well against Florida before the bye week. Florida State has the best wide receiver on the football field, at least in my opinion. I think Miami has more answers in their pass catcher room, period. And I'll go with the wide receiver room that has more answers. Maybe that's a bad way of thinking of it. But if you're Miami, say, hey, can we take away Deuce Robinson? Can we put OJ Frederica on Deuce Robinson? Can we put a safety over top of Deuce Robinson and say, hey, beat us with your other pass catchers? Can Florida State do that in this football game? Probably one of the biggest storylines that we're going to see play out. Offensive line. The answer is Miami, right? Miami might have the best offensive line in the country. This is why Florida State, or a large piece of why Florida State has been really dang good this year. This offensive line's been nails. I mean, I think Miami's got the number 1 offensive line in the ACC. I think number 2 is very clearly Florida State. Now, it's built through the portal, and they got a lot of new faces, but they can move bodies off the line of scrimmage in the run game and have held up way better than I expected protecting the passer. This is the storyline, though. I don't think Florida State has seen a defensive front like what Miami has. I think Alabama's good. I think Miami's a lot better in terms of the high-end difference makers, guys like Akeem Mazur and guys like Ruben Bain. What does this Florida State offensive line look like against the best in the country in Ruben Bain, and quite frankly, a top 5 edge rusher in the country in Akeem Mesidor? If Florida State can hold up and they can still move bodies in the run game and they can still hold up in pass protection, of which they've done the last couple of weeks, man, if Florida State's going to be in this game, ain't no question about it. Defensive side of the football, and this is the biggest advantage that I see on the football field. I look at Miami and say they got multiple NFL dudes. And when I say NFL dudes, they got multiple guys who I think can be top 50 NFL draft picks. You know, it starts with Ruben Bain. I don't think there's been a more dominant football player in the country than what we've seen from Ruben Bain. You look on the other side with Akeem Mesidor. Very, very good. I look at those Florida State offensive tackles and say, as good as they've been in the run game, want to see what they can do in pass protection. Then you look on the inside of Ahmad Moten, David Blay, you sprinkle in Justin Scott. I think there could be some question marks about the depth at that position for Miami. You know, outside of Ahmad Moten, David Blay, Justin Scott, how many bodies does Miami trust? That's a question. And I'll say this, it's an important question because Florida State wants to run with tempo. And if they can stay on the football field and run a lot of plays in this game and force Miami to maybe get into the depth a little bit more than they've had, that could be an advantage for Florida State. You have to take Miami because you look at Florida State and say, who's the guy that's going top 50 in the NFL draft? Hey, here's a better question. Who's the guy that's going to be an NFL draft pick? Darrell Jackson's been solid. I don't know if he's been the game record that Florida State fans wanted to see. You've seen, I guess how I'll say with Darrell Jackson, a little bit more inconsistent than I would have liked. You know, it seems like there are some real highs from Darrell Jackson. There are certainly some lows as well. I think part of the problem is they play Darrell Jackson so much. He played 60 plus snaps against Virginia last Friday night. It's not exactly maximizing your best player. You think you have to give Miami the edge because of the just high-end difference makers that they have in this football game. Linebacker position. I think Miami's really, really happy with what they have. And I'll say this about Florida State. Yeah, these linebackers are playing way, way better than what you saw last year. I mean, Tony Wood's coming, and you can tell there's a little bit more confidence to the linebacker room. I think Motor has been very, very good. I think Wes Bissain continues to be extremely reliable for Miami. You probably lean Miami, but I think if you're a Florida State fan, you have been impressed with what you've seen from the linebackers. Then you go to the back end and say, this is kind of funky, actually, in the secondary. Miami has given up a 58% completion percentage, which is 31st in the country, 6 yards per pass attempt, which is 32nd in the country. Florida State, 58.4%, excuse me, completion given up, and 6.1 yards per play. Identical, and I mean borderline identical numbers from the secondary. Why do I lean Florida State? When it's just talent to talent, why would I lean Florida State? Because Miami's got a defensive line that is wrecking havoc. And so I think that takes a little bit of pressure off your secondary versus Florida State. I'm not sure how dominant this defensive line is. It could go either way. And I'll say this, if there's one thing we've learned, we knew Florida State was going to be damn solid in the secondary. They've recruited that position well. They've developed that position well. Miami, on the other hand, they hit, man. I mean, I think you're really, really happy with the additions that you've brought in through the portal. Both safeties, I think Jacoby Thomas has been really good for Miami. I think you're happy. You're very happy with the addition of Keontae Scott. Ethan O'Connor's been rotated, and I think Damari Brown, low-key, has been playing some good football too. This secondary is fixed for Miami. I probably lean Florida State, but it's not a huge difference between these two units. This one is going to be fun. And as much as we just went, position group by position group and talked about these two teams, this has a lot more to do with how this game is played. And again, I think the reason, if you're a Miami fan, you feel confident is you think you have the better line of scrimmage play. And when the team that has the better line of scrimmage play is going into a game, you can kind of control how that game's played. If you can run the football and stay on the field, you can slow this game down. If you can create some negative plays and get Florida State off the field, you can slow this game down. I think Miami can do that on offense. I think they can do that on defense. But I'll say this, if the ball starts rolling and we're off to the races and it's just possession for possession and we're getting into a little bit of a shootout, man, that favors Florida State. I think Florida State's a little bit more comfortable with that shootout kind of game because of how explosive they can be on offense. That is maybe the one knock that you would have on Miami is it's not a really, really explosive offense. It's really solid and it's really efficient. They don't go backwards. They normally going forwards. They don't hit those game-changing plays. Gus Malzahn can dial it up. And you best believe Gus Malzahn going to be dialing it up Saturday night. How this game is going to be played is the biggest storyline for me. You guys know I'm going with Miami. This is going to be a really, really fun one, though. Florida State fans, Miami fans, y'all battle it out in the comment section. Hey, I want to hear, hey, what quarterback you taking in this game? What quarterback do you have more confidence with in this game Saturday night? Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.